Now we move on to our second panel, and it gives me great pleasure to call upon and Ambassador Beckles, the permanent representative of Trinidad and Tobago to the UN. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your time, and we look forward to hearing you now, your remarks on the child-friendly justice for African children. Thank you, Excellency. The floor is yours.
Okay, I want to thank Dr. Ada and all of those responsible for organizing this event. I'm sorry that I am, that I have some other engagements today. I think one of the beauty of the COVID-19, it has actually allowed you an opportunity to leave one meeting, deliver, and then, hopefully go back to the other meeting. So my apologies that I'm not able to stay for the entire meeting. I'm on the board of UN Women, and today is our executive bureau meeting. So thank you very much. So despite differences in ethnicity, childhood is considered the most crucial aspect of one's development into adulthood. Therefore, ensuring that all children receive a well-rounded education is of utmost importance, and this can make or break their future. In the context of COVID-19, it is clear that the inequalities experienced by African children and children of African descent, specifically in the education sector, may have significantly increased due to the lack of resources, including their access to technology. Additionally, as a result of the negative economic impact on economies globally, some of our children may also be forced to engage in child labor as a solution to decreasing the burden on their individual household. This is indeed a very troubling and sad reality. Further, our children may be deprived of the opportunity to stand up for themselves with the fear and threat of being punished, mistreated, harmed, and disadvantaged. It is therefore our duty to commit to ensure that our children's education is not forgotten and sacrificed post-COVID in the fight to build back our country's economy. We must be able to positively impact those children who are most affected by this pandemic, such as those living in extreme poverty, suffering from mental health issues, lost loved ones as a result of the pandemic, and living in the area of armed conflict. We must guarantee that their protection through the implementation of action-oriented policies and programs. We must also remain committed to ensuring that they are educated on all facets of life by equipping them with the necessary tools to do so, such as technology, access to healthcare, mental health counseling services, career guidance, food security, and nutrition. Additionally, it is of utmost importance that multilateral institutions such as UNICEF, governments, civil society organizations, private sector, and all other stakeholders coherently work together at all levels in order to safeguard our children's education post-COVID-19. I believe that education is the key to success. It is therefore in our interest to ensure that our African children and children of African descent have both the opportunity and the necessary tools to fulfill their highest potentials. I thank you, Excellency.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Beckles. I mean, when I grow up, I want to be like you. So, thank you so much, ma'am, for your time, your commitment, and dedication. And those of
Yes.
us like Ada, myself, we have worked with you for so long that we know your passion and also how you work with us. You're a true leader, and thank you so much. And we really appreciate your time and hope you can, stay there. And thank you so much for making it. Well, a woman
Great,
of many
fantastic.
talents. Thank you
And
again.
just again, thank you very much, Dr. Murthy, and thank you for the support. Thank you for your commitment. I know, like myself, you are, just, giving your expertise and your time. And again, to Dr. Ada, really, and to all the panelists, this is such an important topic. And I'm so happy that I was invited to participate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your stellar remarks, and we appreciate you. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Now,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, distinguished guests, all protocols observed, we are moving on to the second part. And if you have Q&A, kindly tap them in the Q&A box, please, so that it's easy for us to ask the questions. And now the second session, as I mentioned, starts our second panel. And I would like to call upon Mr. Mukundan Paravastu, CEO of eSchools in Africa Initiative. He will be talking about the right to technology education. Thank you, Mr. Paravastu. The mic is yours. Please go ahead. You are audible. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, the primary motive of starting of eSchools Africa was we found out that there is a huge gap between what education is all about and the ability to have this education as a privilege to the kids of Africa. So the African community had a huge divide between the schools and the entire community reaching out to the external world. So we started this initiative for the same reason, and our primary motto and was to make a complete network of all the African schools interconnected on a single platform, so that they are self-sustainable over a period of time and not look at an external world for everything else. So okay, I think the presentation has started, I hope. So I think Rural Plus, which we are doing today as part of this Day of the African Child, is very much culminating with our focused vision of enabling education for every child in Africa across the communities in Africa. So it's not only the cities or the towns. We are looking at rural Africa, primarily the rural children which are deprived of education. So we are all in this pandemic situation today. So we all know COVID is here, and it has disabled the entire structure. So we have challenges as well. While we are seeing that, as per one of the ECOWAS statistics, the dropout rate is much higher than the addition of the children into the primary or secondary or the tertiary education level. So we have tried to bridge this gap by providing and extending the education level to a larger diaspora. So then this pandemic is already disabled the structure. There are, UNESCO says 9 out of 10 children are out of schools today. 185 countries are affected today. So these are the challenges which we'll have. Right then, you also have, people saying e-learning, e-education, and so on. But that also has a fair amount of challenge. One of my other colleague analysts said, there's no internet available. You have every infrastructure, but there's no internet. So how do I reach out to them? So that itself is a challenge. So you have students who are there whom we are not even able to engage with. There is a set of infrastructure which needs to be upgraded, which is very weak today. There is no connectivity which is available. Are the teachers ready to get trained and willing to take this extra mile to ensure that the students are able to reach out to this and avail this benefit? Comes in, the affordability in terms of the education itself. The content which is there today, content is not enough to run the entire program by itself. Even though online is available, the quality of the content is very bad. So we have to improve that as well. So while we do all these things, the remote location, the end user, which is a student, he is not able to afford a laptop or a tablet. He is not able to see the course that is available because there's no internet. The providers are not looking at rural Africa. So these are the challenges which are there today. So when I speak of so many challenges, there is also a fact: how do I resolve it? No challenge comes without a solution to it. So what is eSchools Africa doing so different since our inception earlier on? So while we started analyzing it in 2013 and 14, we started working on a PPP mode, or the public-private partnership mode. This is basically to ensure that no portion of the solution is left like a maze. So what we did is we started providing the entire school with all the ammunition that is required to run the entire program. It could be a completely furnished computer lab with laptops. It could be the e-learning portal for them. It could be the internet solution that they require on broadband, on satellite, or it could even be the e-portal that is required for the administration to run. We have even converted schools to go paperless, so that the entire ability of the program to run doesn't recede anywhere. Likewise, to run the entire scheme, you need gadgets, which is also a challenge. So we have tried to work in that aspect as well, and provide gadgets at a subsidized or a zero cost to the schools. A fair amount of part has also gone in as donations to the school. So while we did all this, we also found that there is this gap between the teacher and student to get accustomed to your kind of learning that is happening, which is the online learning today. So we have to start, upping their levels in terms of skills to the ICT platform, which is your communication and information technology platform. So this we started doing courses and trainings for them, so that they get accustomed with the latest technologies. We started doing boot camps for them. This is again a challenge by itself. With so many students and so many teachers coming in, it is, believe me, even a well settled organization will find it so challenging to do it. There is one set of things that are available to you, and there is one set of things that are made, looked as available but not usable. So that is a challenge that we are looking at. While we are looking at entire thing, you need a completely new and refreshed strategy to go forward. It could be food, it could be health, it could be education. These are all basic requirements for anybody. These are all not like good to have. These are needed to have to run your life. So you cannot compromise anywhere, and you should not deprive anybody of this basic need. So when you go back to the e-learning platform, what we started doing is, we identified all these solutions which are running today. We added another aspect to it, which is the online learning platform. We have launched a platform called as ELGU Africa, e-learning guru Africa. This is basically to enable any student across the African community reach out to any teacher across the African community. So this is going to just be a platform which will enable you to take it forward. So at your pace, at your time, and wherever you are. It is not going to be something that is dependent on any kind of external uh, resources that is to be made available. So all this while we are doing, we also thought that it is important to address and make it sustainable. You have to run it for a longer time. You cannot have it for a short-term course, right? So while we have deployed it at around 60 plus schools today across Africa, we also have the challenge to keep it running for the next set of schools to come in. So this has to be a sustainable project for all of us. So while we are not looking at funding and making it more bulky, but we are also looking at making it sustainable. So this has to be a long-term plan. This has to be a kind of unlimited plan. It cannot be something limited for a time or exclusive for a set of people. So we have focused on that and try to make it as available as possible to the set of students who are available in the community. This covers both rural Africa, it covers the cities of Africa, it covers the towns of Africa. We have done it in Nigeria, we have done it in Tanzania. We are looking forward for another 6 countries already in Ghana. We are looking in Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, etc. So while we are doing all this, we have also been able to achieve the success that is required to run the entire program. So the conclusion which possibly I would have to say is, e-learning is good. This is here to stay. There is no second thought about it. There will be social distancing, there will be thermal screening, there will be sanitizing the places. All this is not going to be compromised even a bit. But virtual classrooms will start taking place now. Once virtual classroom comes, the teachers and teaching material will go on the cloud. Once the cloud goes there, you have access to it at any point in time. You don't need to have a dependency for anybody. At the same time, even the online assessment of the student will start happening. With the virtual interactions that come in, we are even seeing it go farther, that even the proficiency is going to be evaluated on this. This is how we have been evaluating and analyzing over the period of time. And if not for our partners who have been along with us in this journey, it is impossible to work in this kind of harsh environment. And trust me when I say this, it is out of our pure and sheer experience that we are talking. Getting something deployed in a rural African community is next to impossible, unless and until you know the taste of the ground and the people whom you are going to associate yourself with. And fortunately, our partners, be it the government agencies or the organizations who have been a part of it, they have been really cooperative. And the skills that they have shown in terms of building up the entire infrastructure has been phenomenal. Now, I would possibly urge every other government organization to be a party to it and see how we can collaborate and take it further. And this is not limited to one or two countries; it has to be across. And today, right of education is something that we cannot deprive anybody of. So that being the case, we are definitely looking forward to take it much farther to what we are looking at. To conclude, I think I had even put up a set of images to show, one of the learning centers in Kaduna, Nigeria. We have entirely made the school paperless. Right from the administration or the interaction that they are having with the children, the children are gone with laptops to start learning. And I'm talking all this happened a year and a half back, not today. And today it is becoming a reality because of the COVID pandemic. So it is something that is going to stay, and let's all work towards it and make it a better place for every child to live and every child to know what is happening in and around them. Thanks for this opportunity, and I conclude here. So I'm open to any kind of questions as it comes along.
Thank you.
Also,
Thank you
also,
so much.
sure.
Mr. Paravastu, thank you so much. I'm originally from India. I'm from Hyderabad, but I'm American. I live in New York. And thank you and for calling in from India. And I think it's about close to 10 p.m. your time, right?
Right.
Thank
Right.
you very much for
Appreciate it.
your talk. And in spite of the technical glitches, we could not see your images properly. But thank you again. You did a great job, and thank you. And please be there because we have Q&A at the end of it. And again, I request you all to kindly mute your mics, those who are not speaking, and also our attendees and panelists. If you have a question, please type it in the Q&A. I am going to see if there are any questions specifically, yes, directed to Mr. Shah, to Dr. Paravastu. Can you please give your web address for e-learning Guru Africa? Could you please type that, Mr. Paravastu, on the chat so that our panelists can get it? Thank you so much. If you could type it
Sure, I will
in
do
the
it.
chat box. Thank you. If Mr. Pramod Shah is here. Okay. Mr. Shah, you're on. Please unmute yourself and start speaking now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Namaste. Namaste to all in this webinar of 2020 Day of the African Child. And I would like to share now about my presentation on right to technology education, right to child-friendly justice, STEM and technology educations. Uh, Please, next slide. So, okay, throughout the world, schools have been shut down in the national lockdown, placing many children at risk of losing out on learning time. Children have been forced to continue themselves within the narrow walls of resulting in high impact on their physical, psychological, intellectual, and social uh, developments. So this pandemic of COVID-19 seems to prevail for uncertain times ahead. The world so and who are facing the problems? Poor population in rich countries, poor Asians and African countries. A major causes is the lack of resources. So the governments, world governments, we can say, the world governments must make a plan for the welfare of the children during and after the lockdown. The African nations, like most countries in the world, have ordered the schools to close for fighting against fast spreading the COVID-19. In this context, home learning has no alternatives. So home learning has no alternative in this time of COVID-19. Even before the pandemic, uh, in Africa, especially in Africa and some other developing countries as well, television, radio were utilized in order to provide education to the students. Now, this method of teaching can be effective since the children are already familiar with it, and most of the families own radio and television. So in this time, it will be more helpful in the African continent. Uh, and of course, radio and television is already in use for the educations in this time. Uh, so uh, we I would like to share about the online as well. Online learning can help the children keep going. However, only a few schools have well-established online learning system in the developing countries as well and the poor countries as well. So this is also coming as the major challenge. Even this is one of the most appropriate learning system in this time after the COVID-19. So I would like to share some about the challenges as well. So the connectivity problems, limited data access, power cuts, lack of trained manpower, affordability are the additional problems for both the schools and parents to manage. So of course, this is the challenge. And how we can overcome? The governments are supposed to minimize these hurdles as far as possible and ensure the smooth functioning of online classes. So the governments and non-governmental organizations as well as the other stakeholders are required to work together so as to make resources and learning materials available to the needy childrens and the school childrens. These resources must be widely publicized and readily available to the needy childrens. Nowadays, various media and platforms such as radios, televisions, WhatsApp, Zoom, Google Classrooms, and some others are also available that could be used to deliver informations and ideas among the children and the families across African continent. Uh, and for the parents, especially for the parents with limited data and connectivity, there are sites that are zero rated to data, and almost it is free of cost. So that will be also one type of the alternatives. Parents can download the required materials from the free websites available for the public, and they can also get access for the free audio books and like the Audible and the Kindles. These are the platform which is available uh, for the children's, and different applications also can be used to download uh, in the student's phone, and through the phone regarding students can also learn different books, and they can access different books audio from the phone. Parents can also use the trial versions, different type of apps, and they can download the books, which can be used by the parents at least at limited time periods according to the site's permissions. So these are some options for the parents as well, and including this, there are massive open online courses available. So this will be the integration, and it may helps to the parents as well as the students. So thus, since this is the age of information and communication technology, we can give evaluation to the children at this time of pandemic that demands social distancing and restriction on physical movement, keeping in mind that no one should be deprived of education. The government and the other organized stakeholders are expected to work together and deal with every obstacle and thereby guarantee the right to education. It is very important to guarantee the right to education by the government as well as the different stakeholders, including the non-governmental NGOs, INGOs, and many other institutions. They should guarantee the right to education. So, uh, I would like to sum up here, despite the devastation of human health and economy caused by COVID-19, we can still see the opportunities brought by the pandemic, and we should develop such type of opportunity. So it has helped cement the world's effort to create digital and global citizenship. In this opportunity, we can create it to convert our children's the digital citizen and global citizens, because it is very important to be the digital citizen in 21st centuries, and this opportunity is given by the COVID-19 to create the children's digital and global citizens. And they get a chance to learn about collaborations, taking action, communication, self-awareness in this time. So collaboration skills will come excellently in this time through the different type of connection and online and ICT learnings, as well as STEM and technology education helps to develop maker culture, innovator, critical thinkers, enable future leaders, and it also helps to create opportunities. It also helps to create the wonderful job opportunities in different technical sectors as well. So STEM technology is one of the wonderful educational pedagogy and methodology which should be integrated in the education system, and integrate the African education system as well. So in place of STEM, I would also like to focus the STEM technology. Now I would like to focus on STEM: science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. I would like to focus the arts also. Arts also should be included inside the um, teaching and learning methodology with the STEM. So that's why it should form the STEM technology. And finally, it will brings the wonderful results, wonderful innovation, creation, and the uh, and the opportunities to the students. So I focus to include the STEM technology, STEM education model in the African education system as well, and we have already implemented here in our institutions. The use of ICT in classroom enhances the digital skills, of course, and child-centered learning, student-centered learning. It inspires the parents and teachers along with the young minds to think globally. This pandemic has taught a big lesson that we cannot walk alone. The future of this planet rests not. So, and this is the creation of the COVID-19. the relentless international collaboration and cooperation to support and uplift the needy community help to establish a world based equality, freedom, and justice. And it is the actually demand of the 21st century as well. Sure. So so that's why I would like to focus the to create the inclusive as well as equality, freedom, and equity and freedom, equity and justice, as well as the freedom. Uh, Approach should be applied in the education system, and there should be core concept of the digital and global education model in the African education system also. So this will result in creating a vibrant, prosperous, and justice-based African continent by the help of educational model and education system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Shah. And sorry, because of all the technical glitches. And thank you so much for calling in from Nepal. Thank you for your suggestion of including others into STEM. I think it's very pertinent. I'm going to move on to the third session. But Mr. Paravastu and Mr. Shah, please be there because, we may have Q&A. And thank you again for your remarks. They were really great. And in spite of the technological issues, you both did a great job. Thank you again. So moving on now, we go on to the third session. Ladies, gentlemen, honored guests, your excellencies, African lessons in understanding of an African child. And to give us the government perspective, we have Dr. Adamu Noma, former director, Universal Basic Education Board from Abuja. Thank you, sir.
I can join.
The floor is yours.
It's a pleasure to be with you today in the Day of African Children to celebrate this event. And I think it's a very, very important and very good issues and excellent topics, which I heard all of them. And I want to talk about the COVID challenge and the access to child-friendly justice for the African children. And I think it's this is a very, very important subject. And what is available for children in Africa, welfare is quite a lot, but unfortunately it is not on the surface. And it is usually charted or controlled by the African Union or the African Committee for Expert on the Right and Welfare of the Child. And this is quite a lot there, but I think the governments around all the governments around the African continent, which is harbor nearly 1.2 billion populations, and the children is really is about 20–30% of them. They don't have access a lot to this welfare. The standard is there, the policy is there, but unfortunately, it's not everyone is implemented that. And I think when the impact of injustice on the children in Africa is quite it's quite a lot. The prison will affect the children, physical and mental health, and hard enough all their life. It will leave scars. This is what is the aim. This is what will happen to them when they are prison in inhumane, unconditioned, very good conditions places. A victim of sexual or physical abuse will never be normal again. And this is there is you need to have like a standard or policy to look after these victims for long term, because reconciliations and helping them, it's very, very important as well. And also to give an example, to be an example about other countries. Displacement and war leave the permanent scars. Of course, the war is a quite bad thing to be done. And I'm talking about my country, Libya, which is really at the moment, since the revolutions, from war to war. And it is children really displaced, and they are a lot of scars happen to them as well. Disease, poverty, malnutrition affect on the well-being, on the health of the lifelong. And this is a lot of other speakers has touched on this. And I will raise my voice also. This is need to be really adhered, because this is one of the clues to raise the standards for the children's. And if the child is have a disease, if they are poor, if they are malnutrients, they won't have a good educations. And without implementing this justice for these children, you won't be able to have a healthy community or healthy populations who can take the Africa from the scum to the highest levels. Lack of access to education will affect the well-being of the children and risk the justice is really very important. If you educate the children and you have a good educations, then they will understand the justice for them, and you can implement that, you can do that, you can do it through different things. And the challenges post-COVID-19, what is important, it is 2 slides, bear with me, it's a quite hefty one. Increase in the child poverty. This is estimated more than 30 million with the children will be affected in sub-Saharan Africa, and another 20 million in other countries. And this is a challenge. The challenge how we get them out of this poverty post-COVID. Distribution in providing health service and all the resources when to tackle could lead to many of additional child death and leave millions of children unvaccinated against infectious diseases. So risk and challenges. This is really a high risk if the children left without vaccination, if the children left without health, then this is really, and this is all post-COVID. School shuts, other speaker has touched on about it, and this is really risk and challenge, and how you're going to get them back to the school, because some of them, they will leave and never come back, and they found it like an excuse. So my, you know, someone put my slides. If you can throw to the next one, please. You can see them, so I can read them. Then you more reports of increase in domestic violence, nationalization, child marriage, harmful practice, especially in girls and women. And this is due to lockdown. And this is a challenge for every leaders, or like my colleague said, one speaker said, is every leader has to take it our opportunity this and try to raise to this challenge to prevent this from happening. Poor access to information for children, especially vulnerable, and this is a state failure. If the children have no access to all these informations about the post-COVID and what COVID to do, really, it's a quite high risk, and it may lead to many of the other problems. Inequality of increased learning of experience and practice in children. So children who they don't have access to learn more about this COVID virus, they will be left behind, and they will not be facing the reality when it comes to poverty and bad educations. And this is all these things is also raise for the children their chance to understand the justice for them as well. The other challenges post-COVID is half of the world people cannot access essential health care even in normal times, and children will be the worst, because always the children be left behind, left in the last queue. And now post-COVID, everyone said, oh, COVID doesn't affect the children, but it does affect them in mental health, because they leave scars on them, especially if someone died, if someone hurt badly, and their father's been out of the job, or their mother, they have no earning, they have no food on the table. So this will affect them badly. Yes, they will not be affected by the virus, but it may be affected by the that. And this is really high risk. And because of COVID, has no vaccine yet. And I think this is really very important topic, because I know in all Africa, we don't have anything about the vaccination, other vaccination. And now this, a lot of countries, they're buying in bulk all the vaccine, which will be coming in September or in October. And this is very, very important. And the children is the cornerstone or the gold stone for the future of Africa. So from all the African leaders or the people who lead in this one, why we don't invest in the science and invest in the company who produced the vaccine and put them in Africa rather than importing all our vaccine. And this is really high risk. Children will not get access to this vaccine post-COVID, or even the vaccination for like measles, polio, and everything. They will be leaving because these countries, or the one who's manufactured, they may hold it on them. Leadership not be at risk for who represent the children. I think the children has to be represented in all the committees and everywhere. And this is an opportunity post-COVID that has been discussing these issues, and children should be represented. Who can make those inequality visible among all ages, especially in children, is us. People who in this conference, people who in other conference and another conference, they can make it. And the social psychological effect on children may last very, very long. So what should be done post-COVID is educate children, offer vaccination, support for who lost their parents, access to education should be continuous, prepare for the next. So prepare them for the next. What's the next coming? Is there anything coming next? So prepare them. And the other topic is all my colleagues have covered them from there. And the responsibility of Minister of Health, Infectious Disease, school, media, all of these, they have responsibilities to educate the children. And then how to enforce child-friendly justice for African children. It should be adhered to international standard, should best interest of the child. This is the most important thing. Child best interest is the first to be considered. And then equal opportunity for everyone, regardless of their gender, color. Training must be high international standards. And there's a lot of policies, a lot of standards being drawn in everywhere, but it has to be adapted to the African children, to the African nations, to Africa as a whole. And this is the responsibility of the African Union and other people who is in a leadership positions, using media to reach every child in the continent is the responsibility of committees established by African Union and UN. So the media is quite a lot now.
Call you back, please.
So media, internet is okay. So what should be done? I'm suggesting. This is the last slide, and then I will be finished. Establish platform for children to hear their voice, and this is probably. I know that there will be a rural plus would be announced today. Child advocacy service. This is charitable. It can be done through the charitable, or exist or not. It will be drawn, and this is not very difficult. Post-COVID health education webinar for children. WHO and local authority, they have the responsibility to reach every child in Africa to teach them about this post-COVID and what is the implication and what the consequences and what is free healthcare is not only vital for tackling pandemic, but post-COVID virus as well. Recommendation to local government, and this is the African Union and other committees. They have to recommend this is a free child free healthcare for everyone and children specifically, and this is very, very important. And by this, I will stop here and thank you very much for listening. And sorry if I took extra time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nagi Barakat, for your very comprehensive lecture. Thank you. And in spite of the technical difficulties, and in the interest of time, we will come back later to Q&A, but I would like to thank the three panelists, the three gentlemen, for their very diverse perspectives, but very important. And you know what, from different parts of the world. So it's like upholding what the good effects of globalization are. And that being said, may I request all of you, if you can stay, to please be there so that we have the Q&A. So the session 3, where we'll be talking about the African lessons in understanding, I would like to call upon Dr. Adamu Jata Noma, former director of Universal Basic Education Board, Abuja, and he will give a government perspective. And also after that, I would like to call upon Chief Yomi Otubela to be ready so that once Dr. Jatau is done, we will go on to the next speaker. So Dr. Jatau, the screen and the floor is yours. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your time. The floor is yours now. Thank you so much.
Okay, it's a pleasure being with every one of you here today. I want to appreciate the organizer of this program for having me to speak with so many participants all over the world concerning the African Child Day. I want to say here that we are delighted here in Nigeria, and majority of private schools operators in Nigeria are following us on this program, and they have sent their appreciation to the organizer, and they are so happy to be part of this program. Thank you. God bless you, everyone. The message I have from Nigeria is that African children have gotten attention all over the country, all over the globe, to see that we pay more attention more than ever before to child rights. Majority of the child rights have been domesticated here in Nigeria, and we still have some that are yet to be domesticated. We hope that our government that are working currently on those domestication of child rights in all the states. We have so many states that have accepted the United Nations child rights, and some states are still working around it to get it domesticated. With this pandemic era, it has been challenging here in Nigeria, just as it is in all over the world. I must say that our challenges is further compounded with the lockdown of school. Currently, we have over 10 million children that are out of schools on the streets. And with this pandemic, it is estimated that the number will be increased. It is further a challenge that more attention are not given to children in the northern part of the country here in Nigeria. And it is our own job as private investors in education to see that we complement government efforts to take away a good percentage out of the out of school children back to school through scholarship. We currently are facing lockdown, and we couldn't do much this year. And we hope that as soon as this pandemic is over, we will be able to do more. Our suggestion, therefore, is for a first and foremost, number one, is a continuous discussion, collaboration, and assessment of achievements for concentration on children need in Africa. This conference is in the right direction to see that we brainstorm, we share knowledge, and we can learn from one another for the benefit of African child. Secondly, we also want to say that there will be a need for an association of confederation of association within Africa, especially within those who are private investors, those who are private practitioners in areas that are concerning children. There's a need for a confederation of association where we can exchange scorecards and also share challenges with the hope of finding lasting solution. Thirdly, I also want to suggest here that there will be a need to have an interrelationship that will extend to having children to learn from one another through excursion, visitation to other countries within Africa, and exchange idea and innovation. This, no doubt, will extend the scope and the knowledge of the children for the fact that they are going beyond their local experience. We further challenge their intellectual to want to see that they are part of the solution to African child friendly environment when they grow up. The number 4 is the fact that we also want to suggest that there will be a need for more advocacy from all of us that are concerning African child. Its budget is African child's need. Advocacy to see that private organizations also were able to donate and support the cause of African child and support the cause of some of these non-governmental organizations who are engaging in saying that African child are well nurtured for African development. Finally, we want to say here that we had gotten this information just some few days ago, and we would love that in the subsequent arrangements we have carried along as early as possible, so that we can make a paper presentation and of course prepare beyond what we've done currently. It is my pleasure speaking to all of you and listening to the speakers before me. I must say that was a beautiful and impactful presentation that I've just listened to. I thank you all. God bless you and see us through this pandemic era. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief, for your inspiring remarks, keeping to time, sir, and thank you for calling in. I really appreciate your remarks, and please stay with us. Our next speaker, I'm going to call upon Dr. Adamu Jotal, and if he's still having issues, I will call upon our next speaker now, the Reverend Canon Nwachakuwu Okike, Education Secretary, Diocese on the Niger, the Anglican Communion, for your perspective, Reverend, Mission School perspective. Thank you, sir, for joining us from Niger. The floor is all yours. Thank you so much.
I want to appreciate Dr. Ada and her team for the privilege given to me to be part of this conference. I was asked to present a paper, COVID-19 after lockdown preparedness, education, health of African children. The history of the Diocese of the Niger dates back to the Niger expedition of over 162 years ago. After the 1841 expedition, the white missionaries realized that Africa was best evangelized by Africans. This realization led to Samuel Ajay Crowther being given the privilege of playing a prominent role in the mission team to West Africa, especially the Igbo mission. Diocese on the Niger was the first Christian organization to establish schools and hospitals east of the Niger. For instance, Central School Odabo Onitsha has lasted over 160 years. Iyenu Mission Hospital has lasted over 112 years. Dennis Memorial Grammar School Onitsha has lasted over 94 years. If we can share the slide very well, you see by my left-hand side, you see the oldest primary school east of the Niger, Central School Odabo. Then at the middle, Iyenu Mission Hospital. Then by my right-hand side, you can see Dennis Memorial Grammar School, Onitsha. What we do as a diocese, the diocese has 172 primary schools and 57 secondary schools. We employed over 2,700 staff, tutorial and non-tutorial, and both at the urban and rural areas. We have more than 54,292 learners, both at the primary and secondary schools. The diocese provides education for 15% of learners in Anambra State. The proprietor, Bishop on the Niger, Right Reverend Dr. Owen Nwokolo, has been sponsoring all these schools by providing the necessary facilities that will enhance qualitative education and taking care of the staff welfare. The bishop earlier this year approved over 8.5 million naira, approximation of $25,000, as part payment to set up an online portal that will host the database of all our schools. On the next slide, the bishop has an interactive section with all the teachers under his diocese annually. Likewise, on the right slide, the learners do come to the cathedral for interaction with the bishop. And also the bishop gave out scholarship of 300 students to go to the school, tertiary institution of their choice to study over there. How the diocese is supporting the education of children in this COVID era. The Diocesan Education Commission has developed protocols for all our school heads to implement and make use of face masks and washing with soap for at least 20 seconds, use of alcohol-based and sanitizers, and maintain social distancing in all our schools. It costed the diocese about $16,823 to provide all these measures. Below the slide, preventive protocols in our schools. We produce flyers and share to all the parents and well-wishers. At the same time, at the first slide, we were able to encourage them to use face masks and also hand washing, and also to avoid using hands to put into the eyes or the nose, and how to use hand sanitizers and also social distancing. How the diocese is still supporting education? The diocese embarked on online teaching using computer-based technique and alpha radio station to keep our children busy, which is effective, though it hinders teacher-learner relationship. And learner-learner relationship, and also it is very expensive to maintain. For the parents who cannot afford the electronic devices, the smartphones, laptops, iPad, etc., or hindered by network services, we gave, okay, you can see the slide there, we gave them an option B. They come to the school, pick the hard copy, and send to their wards with exercises, after which they will return them weekly. Our schools organize Parent Teachers Association meeting where they advise the parents to start observing the COVID-19 protocols. They were also advised to encourage their children to start using face masks at home and other places. What the diocese plan to do in the post-COVID-19 era: provision of clean water with soap, hand sanitizers located at the appropriate places in compound, do the needed assessment, and work out financial implications on operations. Constant briefing with staff and parents on actions to be taken, ensuring that social distancing is maintained, at least 2 meter spacing, and classes well ventilated. Classes can equally move to open spaces or outdoors. Constant compound cleaning and disinfection with ethanol and provision of waste bins. Our schools will embark on shift morning and afternoon to avoid being overcrowded while learning. The next slide, please. Ensuring that school clinic is functional and well equipped with a trained medical personnel, strict compliance with COVID-19 protocols, and ensuring that both staff and learners observe them, including visitors. Avoiding programs that will bring the children together, ensuring that children eat healthy food, drink enough water, and eat more vegetable, fruits with vitamin A and C. Encourage our children to do exercises and make sure they sleep well. Please, the next slide. Our challenges. Staff welfare. The diocese has been paying staff salaries despite the lockdown, but cannot be sustained without assistance. This is because the learners do not pay school fees, and yet expenses have increased drastically. This is one of the major challenges we face. Inadequate facilities and manpower to tackle the two shifts. Boarding facilities cannot continue in order to maintain social distancing due to limited hostel that will accommodate the number of learners. Lack of interest. Many learners at the rural areas now dropped education for other things like farming and other menial jobs. Teaching is activity-based, but with current situation, teacher-learner relationship is strained. The costs incurred for 3 months during this COVID-19 are stated in the next slide. This is the next slide. The financial analysis is expenses incurred by the diocese. March, we spent $321,428 to pay the staff salary. If you go through, you see April, we were able to provide face masks, hand sanitizers, buckets, and disinfectant. The grand total cost is about $981,107. The next slide, please. The next slide. In summary, we provide education for a huge number of children and employ a substantial number of adults in our community. We have commissioned an online learning portal, implemented school-based learning protocols, and engaged with our parents and teachers and community to support teaching our children. COVID-19 has put enormous financial pressure on the diocese as the income from school fees has reduced without decreased expenditure. We want to partner with well-meaning non-governmental organizations and corporate bodies to develop our online programs so we can continue to provide a high-quality education program for our learners in the 21st century. Thank you for patient listening.
Thank you so much, Reverend, for that very comprehensive talk and your financial breakdown. And thank you so much. I was particularly heartened being a public health professional and a physician when you talked about hand sanitizers and masks. We cannot stress and the importance of hand washing. You know, the lessons we learned as children, like wash your hands, it's so important. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And it was a pleasure. And you know, be safe, everybody there. That's what we all wish for. We have to be safe. And now I would like to call upon Dr. Gloria Laraba Shoda from Nigeria to give an educator's perspective. Dr. Gloria, are you on, please? I see you on. Ma'am, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Ebinola Shoda, and I'm actually representing Dr. Gloria Laraba Shoda. She couldn't be here now because she had other meetings that were clashing with this one. Basically, I'm going to be talking about the post-COVID after lockdown preparedness, and I'm using the Nigerian child as a case study. Nigeria, as some of you may know, we have about 76 states, we have about 774 local government areas, and the UN estimates that our population is about 200 million, and about almost half of it is actually women, about 49.5% are women. Now, I'm going to be talking about the key sectors, which includes water and sanitation, health and education. According to UNICEF, it says only 13% of public schools have access to basic water and sanitation. And that half of the population, about 100 million, lack access to safe drinking water. And we also know that children in rural areas have no access to digital learning tools, internet, online and remote learning, which is what a lot of us have been talking about today. And in the health area, we've also learned that about 100,000 Nigerian children below the age of 5 years old die of waterborne diseases annually. In the education sector, about 10.5 million children aged between 5 to 14 years old are out of school. Now, what is the impact of this COVID-19 lockdown on the Nigerian child? And what we've seen is that this COVID-19, this lockdown has exposed a lot of things. And some of the things that it has exposed is the inequalities in the educational sector, the health, water and sanitation, information and technology, which we will add to education, because education comes ICT as well. And we noticed also that it has exposed our children to other vulnerabilities like child abuse, child sex assault, rape, and child labor. So what we find is that in this period, we have, if we take the private and the public school, for example, we find that most people in the rural areas, or most children in the public schools, cannot have online learning. They cannot access online learning. While we have children in private schools having online learning, going on with the school term online, while the other children are in rural areas or public schools are lagging behind. They cannot continue with the normal school calendar for the year. And also, why is this? Because most of them, they don't have ICT. Why is that? It's either, the problem we've noticed is that it's either most of their parents don't have a smartphone. Now, the ones that have a smartphone cannot afford to get, they don't have Wi-Fi. Or they cannot afford to get data on their phone. So the ones that can even afford to get data have no electricity. to charge their phones. So by the time the child gets online, the battery drains.
Don't want time.
So those are the problems that
Sure,
in rural areas face online.
Okay,
what we also find is that because these children, because the schools are locked, they are at home and they are more vulnerable. Some of the parents are essential workers, they go to work, they don't have any proper some of these children are having to hawk, to sell, to do all sorts, go and fetch water to go and work with farmers during this period. So this has actually exposed the children to a lot of vulnerability. Where normally they would be in school, now they're not in school, so they're having to go to work somewhere else. Or someone abusing them in the house, either a carer, a neighbor, someone that's supposed to be looking out for them. So those are the problems that this lockdown that has caused. So as such, how are we prepared for the Nigerian child? And we are looking at a lot of things, including social welfare intervention. We're looking that the government should cover more areas of providing school feeding programs and giving cash aids or any kind of aid to poor families so that these kids can stay in school. We're looking at child protection. As at now, we have only about 25 states plus the FCT that have domesticated the Child Rights Act. So what we're saying, and even those that have the Child Rights Act in place, there is no enforcement. We don't have, because if there are strict enforcement to this Child Rights Act, we will have less people less instances of child abuse, because we know that when this happens, the person knows that they will be caught and they will be dealt with at the full extent of the law. But this is not happening, and this is something that post-COVID we need to emphasize on: child protection. And then we also have the problem of power supply, especially in schools, public schools, and schools in rural areas. So we wonder if the government should provide other alternative power supply, probably solar panels or gadgets that can use that can be solar powered, tabs, laptops, any other digital tools that can be solar powered, or have solar panels in public schools. At least this will help with power supply, which will in turn help with teaching them ICT and teaching them and helping them to get online. So and then another problem we have post-COVID that we need to be prepared for. In some public schools, a standard classroom probably has like about 80 students. Some even go as far as 120 students in a class. While you will see that the private sector, the private schools or the counterparts have probably about 18 to 25 students in the classroom. So you can imagine 80 students in a standard classroom. How are we going to cope post-lockdown? How are we going to deal with safety protocols? How are we going to deal with hygiene protocols? How are we going to be doing the physical distancing? That we don't see how we don't know how that is going to that will play out post-lockdown. And these children also have no ICTs. They don't teach with ICT. They don't have computers. They don't have laptops. They don't even have internet connections in these schools. So those are the things that we feel that the government needs to look into. And then also, we also need to look into the need to still carry out nationwide awareness campaign and in all major languages in the country. And we should keep hammering on the safety measures, washing of hands, wearing of masks. Now, when we go back to school, we know that children under the age of 2 years old cannot wear masks. They're not advised to wear masks. So what is the way forward? Is the government going to provide the other kind of plastic covering for the face? What is the way forward? These are the things that we need to prepare ourselves for. Or is it that children under the age of 2 will not go to creche, they will not go to school? But how would that pan out for the parents at home if they have to work? And I also feel that the national curriculum going forward should be reviewed. And we should have more STEM programs to encourage more pupils, more students, especially female, to embrace the STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and any other more meaningful, more practical subjects, so that they can. We don't want what's going on to be a status quo to continue. We don't want our students to just learn subjects that would not be meaningful, that will not be helpful in their future when they go out there in the world to work. We want them to learn practical and meaningful subjects. So we wish that the government would look into the national curriculum. And we're talking about skills acquisition, which is something that we have been doing, but it's not enough. Someone asked a question earlier about the orphan child or the mothers. How do we empower the mothers? And this is what we are doing right now in my state. I run a school, and I also run some skills acquisition program as well, where we teach these women how to make, hair, how to make pastries, how to make liquid soaps, hand wash, and bleach, and sanitizers. We didn't even know that we would have a pandemic on our hands when we were teaching them this. And we feel that most of this should continue. We find that sanitizers are very expensive now. So if we could make these sanitizers ourselves, if the women could empower them to make this, they could sell this, it could be more affordable for our people, and they could have something, the women can have something doing, so that they'll be able, once the woman is equipped, once she's empowered, and she has an income, she'll be able to run a household, she'll be able to take care of her child, the child will be able to get at least, be able to be in a situation where they can get their education. So we know that there's no how we are talking about the child that will not include empowering the parents, especially the mothers. And I think that we also need to increase advocacy for the 11, we have 11 states that have not domesticated this Child Rights Act. We feel that we need to do this. We need to have this advocacy. We need to put pressure on these states so that they can embrace this Child Rights Act, so that we can protect our child. We can protect the children, and people can think twice before abusing these children. We're thinking that children may drop out of school. Children may be sent off to go and work. Underage children will be sent off to go and live with someone, to go and work with someone. The education will be truncated. All these we need to look into. Some might even be given up to marriage and all those stuff. So we really need to emphasize the need for every state to not only domesticate the Child Rights Act, to also make sure that there is proper enforcement of it in public schools. They need to think about getting up, because when there is a water supply, then we can think about teaching them to wash their hands, to maintain proper hygiene, so that we can fight this coronavirus and make sure that the children are safe in school. This will be not only just giving them water, giving them the hand washing facilities, having the drums with taps in it, and then teaching them to wash their hands, putting soaps and everything there for them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gloria, for your remarks. Much appreciated. Thank you for your time and talking about the challenges which are being faced. It's really important. Thank you so much. And moving on to our next panel, which is Dignity of African Child, I would like to call upon Mr. John Agre, CEO, Hired Consultant, who will talk about COVID-19 and child-friendly justice African child. Thank you, Mr. John Agre.
Engaging stakeholders through mapping and assessment processes and advocating for systems change is the way. This is evident in today's webinar. We need to work cooperatively and collaboratively to set realistic priorities. And the key word is realistic priorities and investments, because all this without investment will yield no results. With concise implementation plans that should include both short and long-term goals. Ultimately, the application of any framework must reflect the regional and local context, because no country, African country, is on its own. including cultural diversity, resources, and the level of stability of the plan we set in focus. The role of CSOs in improving and advocating for access to child-friendly justice system in Africa must be taken not for granted, as these organizations and movements play a critical role in ensuring child rights, education, and legal awareness for all children, as well as for families and communities, through child participation projects, supporting community-based legal systems and services, legal aid clinics, and social legal defense centers to provide legal information and representation to children. It must be noted, inclusive participation of sector players, including, let me stress on that, including the African child. They cannot be left. We cannot afford to lose more children to direct and collaborate as it spreads in Africa. We need to begin with better data to tell us about the infection and health and access to child-friendly justice for African child can only be achieved by a transformative vision for to the Pan-African vision of a united and prosperous Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Agre. And it was so cute that we could hear your little girl too. You know, it's so apt when we're talking about child-friendly justice that your daughter was on that. Thank you so much for your remarks. And moving on, I would like to invite Praise Nwankwo from the Baptist Academy University of Ibadan, Nigeria. And Ms. Nwankwo will be discussing challenges of African children in times of emerging issues. So, Ms. Nwankwo, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone. Today is June 16th, 2020, the Day of African Child. Our theme for this year is Health and Access to Child-Friendly Justice for the African Child. My name is Praise Nwankwo. I'm from Baptist Academy Secondary School, University of Ibadan. My outline will take introduction, history, and relevance of DAC, children's involvement in the justice system, child-friendly justice system, COVID-19 and state of education and health of the African child, and conclusion. Introduction. The history of the Day of the African Child goes back to 16th of June 1976, when more than 10,000 Black South African students marched on the streets of Soweto, South Africa, to protest the quality of their education, as well as the discriminatory education policies of the then apartheid South African government. In response to the protest, the apartheid government shot and killed many of the students and injured several others. It was not until 16th of June 1991 that the Organization of African Unity, OAU, decided to make the 16th of June a special day to celebrate the African child. Subsequently, since 1991, the 16th of June, it has been specially celebrated as a Day of the African Child, or DAC, for the following reasons. Firstly, to commemorate the South African students killed on 16th June 1976, to sensitize awareness on the rights and welfare of the African child. Thirdly, to assess the progress of the implementation of the Regional African Charter on the rights and welfare of the African child. Child-friendly justice system. For the interest of our younger viewers, I will define the following terms. First, rights. Rights are moral or legal entitlements that everyone can and should have without discrimination of any form. Examples of rights are rights to free speech, right to marriage, right and right to fair justice system. The next thing I'll explain is what a justice system is. A justice system comprises of people such as police officers, activities such as court proceedings, agencies such as courthouses, and correction facilities that together help ensure that offenders or criminals are apprehended, prosecuted, and punished when found guilty. Child-friendly justice system. Children can get involved in the justice system in any of the following four forms: as victims, where they are the object of the crime; as witnesses, where they have knowledge of the crime; as offenders, where they are suspected to be guilty of a crime; and as complainants, where they desire to report a crime. In whatever way a child comes into the justice system, it is important that the justice system is child-friendly to guarantee the protection of the child while upholding the rights of the child without discrimination of any form. Child-friendly justice system. A child-friendly justice system adopts the principles of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of a Child, which are 1. Equality of opportunities without discrimination. 2. Best interest of the child is upheld. 3. Entitlement to right to survival and development. 4. Views of the child in matters affecting him or her must be heard and respected. COVID-19 and state of education and health of the African child. Proper education teaches protection strategies from health issues associated with COVID-19 and other health challenges. For example, education is necessary to teach children proper hand washing and social distancing in public. Education directly affects ability to make informed choices or decisions. Schools have been closed due to COVID-19, forcing us to use online education. Online education faces several challenges, such as disturbance from siblings, disturbance from parents' errands, disturbance from favorite TV shows, and most importantly, lack of participation due to cost of data, scarcity of data, or lack of data. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Praise Nwanko. You are so cool. And it's so nice to have people, voices of youth represented through you. I'm sure you have many, many great things. And thank you again for your very well articulated speech and slides. Thank you. And for staying up so late. Because what time is it now in Nigeria? 10 o'clock?
6:30. 6:30 p.m.
Oh, 6:30. So it's not. Thank you again so much. Now, and we all really enjoyed it. So now I would like to invite Miss Ellie Menakaya from St. Hilda's Preparatory School for Girls from the United Kingdom. And she will discuss remote and digital learning experience of African diaspora. Thank you so much, Miss Menakaya. Welcome.
Thank you. Please, could I have my slide? Hello, my name is Elle, and I will be talking about remote and digital learning experience of an African child in diaspora. I attend St. Hilda's Bushy School, which is an all-girls school, and I'm currently in Year 6. There are around 142 pupils from reception to Year 6. In my class, there are 20 children. Before quarantine, my school day started at 8:50 and ended at 15:50 or 1700 when I had clubs. We had 18 subjects, such as drama, geography, art, French, science, and maths. We were looking forward to many fun activities and inter-school competitions together and having lots of fun in the playground at lunchtime with friends for our last year at the school. With quarantine, I now have a different schedule. My school day starts at 9 o'clock and ends at around 16:20 so I can thoroughly finish my work. I use an online platform called Seesaw and Microsoft Teams to communicate with my teachers and friends. One advantage is that now I don't have to wake up so early, as the travel to school takes a lot of time. Also, I am more flexible with my timetable when I do my homework, and because of this, I give better quality work. In addition, my teachers have been giving us lots of work so we are educated enough. We have set many tasks involving research, reading, knowledge, and creativity, keeping our minds fresh. Also, because now we work on our own instead of a classroom full of pupils, we must be more independent, which is an important life trait to have. While in quarantine, there are also some disadvantages. As my school's sports captain, I have not been able to fulfill my duties, like taking my school to sport events, such as swimming galas and netball tournaments. The extracurricular clubs that I used to do have been put on hold as well, like chess, computing, science, and many sports clubs. And due to the restrictions, I had to have a virtual school induction with my new secondary school, which I'll be starting in September. Many fun things were supposed to take place, including residential trips and the annual school prize giving day, which I was really looking forward to, had to be cancelled or had to be done virtually. Even though we have to social distance, we have still been able to see each other using technology. We have a weekly chat on Teams with our teachers, and during that time, we check up on everyone and ask people how their week has been going, just making sure everyone is okay. We have even had a virtual birthday party for one of our classmates, which was really fun and all my friends enjoyed. Overall, there has been a lot of change over the past few months, and COVID-19 has really affected all of us, including the way we get educated. All of us have had to adapt to the sudden change in our lifestyle as well, which can get in the way of many important things, and that is why children must get really good education during these hard times. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Elle. That was so cool. And thank you for sharing your dress you designed in a recyclable bag. So even during the lockdown, you were thinking about the, environmental sustainability and the SDGs. So thank you for an excellent presentation. So Praise and Elle, you were like amazing. You guys, thank you so much. And it was so nice to have you in our panel. See, didn't I tell you that Ada is the orchestrator and, she always comes up with great ideas and it's always great to work with her. Thank you so much and good luck to both of you young ladies. Now, moving on to our session 5 is position of global agenda. I would like to invite Mr. Fawad Ali Langa, who is an SDG advocate, model UN trainer and consultant. And he will be sharing his remarks on the topic of achieving quality and inclusive education, the model of the United Nations for African child perspective. Thank you so much, Mr. Fawad. The mic is all yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Patni. It was really amazing. Keep noting down, keep checking down. You're a very superb moderator, by the way, I must say. And that's really amazing. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Ada, for really inviting me. I request to Brother Tony, if you could give me the access to share my slides, I can do that because there are some of the animations that I can quickly rotate into that. So I need to request to access it by myself. So it will be much better for me. Thank you, Tony. You've been fantastic for everyone, buddy. Thank you. And,
okay, go on. The slide is yours.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. And welcome and thank you so much. And it's a big day, of course, in the African Children Conference, a great celebration for everyone. And okay, so I'm starting with that, of course, it's 2020 Day of African. Joint Conference. And myself, Fawad Alilonga, I'm from Pakistan. That's my quick review of my profile. Of course, like I'm a life coach, SDG Educate, an activist. I'm a modernization recognized consultant and trainer across the globe from last 11 years. I'm a public speaker, motivational speaker, and there are plenty of things of going on. I'm also a corporate soft skill trainer and youth advocate, and being nominated this year as DG4 Educator of the Year by Humanitarian Award Ghana, actually. Okay, so moving into that, of course, the major focus for my talking is of course, we have the global pandemic. And during this pandemic, of course, how we can actually make sure about achieving quality and inclusive education through modernization, specifically to our African children. That is my major focus, actually. And through Model UN, how we can do that, that is the main question. Because in the field that I have been observing from last 11 years, how we can actually put this to productive, especially during the COVID-19, and of course after, or you can say a post-COVID measures, how this modernization is actually helping our African children to have a quality education, to have a good sustainable education, and of course their way of style as well. So let's have a quick review about what is actually the modernization. So it's a huge definition which I, as a trainer, have put forward, and I have the, you can say, drop this, but just let move into the quickly. It is basically called the simulation of United Nations, which all the educational and academic activities come into that, and simulate all the different UN special agencies, UN bodies, and you can say UN itself, of course. We talk about the General Assembly, and also if you talk about the Crown Committee, the Security Council. So what the United Nations does, of course, itself, in the modernization on the basis of academic purposes, the basic for the education purposes, in the modernization, we simulate all those as the model United Nation. And that's been, of course, been doing across the world right now. All the special agencies, all the UN committees have been simulated, different organizations, different conferences, different societies, schools, colleges, everyone, they are actually doing, some of them working actually under the umbrella of the United Nations, with the association, with the endorsements as well. And this is actually how they're, and then they do have like the chairperson, just like the chairperson in the United Nations, they have the moderators who actually moderate the debate, the same global issues and everything, just like in United Nations. But they're pretty much a bit different of the rules and procedures. Like the rules and procedure in the United Nations that the international community, the ambassador actually does, and the rules and procedure of the United Nations is pretty much same, but slightly something to make more accessible and to make more, you can say, from the perspective of education. They have given a bit of leniency for the students and for the children across the globe, of course. Okay, so it was actually the first one, and even when the League of Nations, the first model League of Nations was also came into being as well in 1920s, and then first model United Nations was actually by St. Lawrence University Model UN Conference was in 1949. That was the first one that had been introduced, the concept. And then of course the major one, and actually the pioneers across the globe right now, is actually the Harvard itself, and National Modernization by the Harvard, and by, you can say, itself, the UN also involved into that. So this is actually what the United Nations, the simulation of United Nations comes. And then in 1987, some few American students actually founded, which is known as actually the Timon, was in The Hague actually. So that's what actually the idea behind of the Modernized Nations. But what really important, how it will really come up with the matter of the benefit is actually the skills. Just a typical view, it's just like the same. The chairperson that in the United Nations, it's a typical view. We have the podium over there. On some occasion we don't, but usually they does have, of course, and the delegates are sitting. It's just like the same thing to teach what actually the United Nations does, for the student perspective, for the education purposes, and in order to promote the United Nations itself actually, and also to discussing and debating and involving all our children into the global issues, we work and we promote demodernization into the same manner. This is how actually they said it's just like a typical idea and typical way out. Okay, the benefit and the skills, because it's a human nature itself that it actually approaches like what benefit and skills we can get. So that's what actually the benchmark for me to telling why it is important for all our, especially our African children today. What this platform actually giving to us, diplomatic skills, very, very important when, especially when you're hunting for a job, when you're looking for a job, of course, negotiation skills. 21st century is actually the entirely depend upon the negotiations, your lobbying, of course, solution-oriented thinking, of course, and critical analysis. What decision making is really, really matters on what side, or even during this, of course, the pandemic situation, I must say, the important decision making, the quick decision maker, there's of course the critical analysis is very important, and leadership skills. It's a key, of course. Okay. Then time management, what to speak, why to speak, and the quality speaking on any of the you can say platform, and what timing is necessary. That is really, really important to do so. And the teamwork, of course, that is, you can say, the focus and helping around everywhere. That if our children start getting know all those skills from the grassroots level, from the fundamental level, definitely they will not face in the future if they are actually studying and pursuing their degrees in undergraduate or postgraduate, and then enter to the corporate world, of course. And of course, the lobbying. Moving into that, writing skills, drafting, and then working on the working papers, debating and keep drafting on the different resolutions. These all things are actually coming from the modernization. Communication skills, one of the another key from the side of the soft skills actually. Debating skills, intellectual skills, presentation skills, public speaking, good decision making, and the lastly and the most important is actually the drawing the policies, constitution, frameworks, and of course the law. So these all things actually modernization offers you a plenty of skills. Even those are those, I mean, that I can actually recall, but there are plenty of others that I personally believe and I personally found by serving 11 years in this particular platform. So that is something really important, I must say. And today, our African child who actually really want to compete in this 21st century, bearing in mind especially the pandemic is going on, which is actually the great opportunity, as our earlier speaker said, I mean, Sir Peter and Dr. Gloria have mentioned about that this pandemic is actually an opportunity for us. So this is the right time for our African children. I know they are self-isolated, they are self-isolation, they are actually into the quarantine, but this is the right time to do something on your personal development. And so in conclusion, I must say the modernization, of course, is promoting quality education, SDGs, and beside that, all other SDGs as well. And of course, the great soft skills, promoting quality education, and of course, promoting inclusive education. And the major focus is actually the quality education for sustainable life, especially for us African children. Okay, that's again, okay, I'm always there for helping and to creating any kind of a module related to that with the softer skills, with the model UN, with the SDGs. This is my contact, and that's fine. Thank you very much for putting in attention on that. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Fawad. That is, you're really a mover and a shaker. Thank you so much. And if I could request you to kindly type in your contact information in the chat box, much appreciated, because the last slide moved over. I mean, we can spend hours listening to the speakers, especially somebody like you, because it was so nice that we had the two young kids and then we had you, another youth, who's an inspiration. So it's great. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
so
moving
much.
on, I'd like to call Miss Maria Pia Belloni, Chair of the NGO Committee on Migration and the UN NGO representative of the World Organization for Early Childhood. And she will be discussing with us the children's right to education and health and the right of early childhood development for children in vulnerable situations during the current pandemic. Thank you so much, and let's get moving. Thank you. Ms. Belloni, the mic is yours.
Okay, thank you so very much. It's really a privilege and an honor to be with you today. I will try to be very brief because we are so late right now. So I will stress in my talk the urgent need to implement early childhood development services for young children in vulnerable situations. And we have to build together, if it's possible, a pathway to hope and try to help children to become really actors of their future and not only victim of their present. We know that the children, the COVID-19 outbreak is universal, but for the most vulnerable children, is exacerbating existing crisis. We know, we have some data, we know millions of children are in areas affected by conflicts. Many of them spend early childhood in refugee camps. We have data, but I have to underline that we need more disaggregated data to have a clear picture of the situation. Africa, we know it's a young country, and the COVID-19 has a devastating impact on a future of millions of children. A million of children on Africa will be pushed into extreme poverty. And I underline that the poverty is not a destiny, so we can work together to avoid this situation. And the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that the children's rights to development and protection may become the biggest casualties of COVID-19. And the situation, the picture that we have under our eyes, if we are thinking to the access to health at the school, it's really very troubling. And access to school is the school in Africa, but I have to say not only in Africa, it's not only a place for learning, but also a safe place from violence and exploitation, and also a place where the children can find the food, water, and access to services. So it's really a dramatic situation. Very vulnerable are children trapped in a conflict zone. And again, the UN Secretary General called for an immediate global ceasefire in all corners of the world, because in time of pandemic, we have to prioritize the peace. And we don't have to forget the refugee and internally displaced and migrant children. They represent 50% of refugee and migrant in Africa. And in refugee camps, and I think to Dadaab or Bidi in Kenya and in Uganda, the measure to contrast the COVID-19 are practically impossible, with devastating impact on the younger children. This, I repeat, it's a very troubling picture, but we must be optimistic and look at what the science is saying. The science is clear. A child brain constantly grows in complexity and is greatly impacted by daily experience. In other words, a child brain is also built, not only born, and the process begins before birth and involve a complex interplay of neural connection that are shaped by experience and environment, the epigenetics. So adversities and toxic stress in the first 5 years can affect children throughout their life. And this not only has long effects on health, well-being, productivity, but also contributes to the cycle of poverty, inequality, and social exclusion that affect all society worldwide. There is good news. developmental neuroscience has shown that early intervention with early childhood development directly influences education, health, and social outcomes for the individual and for the society. Because children are remarkably resilient, and when they have a support they need during the early childhood, they can navigate complex and difficult situations. But failure to intervene will create negative consequences for the global society. Early childhood development is absolutely a good investment, also from an economic point of view. Investing in early childhood development can have a rate of return of 13.7%. So the governments reducing in this way the cost for the governments of healthcare, public health, child protective service, etc. The cost of non-intervention is absolutely very high. And is estimated to be as great as 26% of the annual adult income, trapping families into transgenerational poverty. ECD also can become a tool to build a more cohesive and peaceful society, can bring together families from different backgrounds around a common goal of child well-being, and can develop a long-lasting resilience. Supporting and empowering the most vulnerable young children today can build a strong foundation for peace, as called for by the United Nations. And I think into the resolution of the United Nations 7421, the resolution on a program of action on a culture of peace. And this resolution stressed the need to implement early childhood development program to increase social cohesion, equality, and economic productivity. And we are also in SDGs era, and the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon stated that the SDGs recognize that early childhood development can help drive the transformation we hope to achieve over the next 15 years. So the critical role of the ECD also to achieve the SDG 4 and 16, but 1, 2, 3, so number of SDGs. So unless government provides programs for young children, mainly during this pandemic, the 2030 agenda will never be fully achieved. We have another good news. As a chair of NGO Committee on Migration, I follow the negotiation for the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration, and Global Compact for refugees. And we push the member state to add in this two Global Compacts the ECD. And we succeeded in this. And now in the Global Compacts, both Global Compact for migrants and refugees, member states committed to protect the right of ECD. Now it's time to transform this commitment into action. We have so many good practices, good example of implementation of ECD program for vulnerable children all around the world. And I don't take time just to mention this, I have in my slide, that it's a good sign. We can change. We have a good example in this way. And also the Committee on Migration as an advocacy program, Brighter Futures, we named this program, for the promotion of ECD at a local level, because the local level is absolutely critical. We have to reach a local level to change the thing, to facilitate the concrete implementation of ECD. And the Committee on Migration, HOMEP, and FAVCO, and other NGOs are members also of Early Childhood Peace Consortium, ECPC, based in Yale, supported by UNICEF. And ECPC aims to create a movement for peace, social cohesion, social justice by using early childhood development strategies to enable the world community to advance peace, security, and development. And we are working on we are thinking to promote a UN resolution on ECD and children in vulnerable situations. I repeat what the other speaker said and stressed, the COVID-19 can become really an opportunity. COVID-19 clearly called for a new solidarity, starting with the children. And we need to accelerate a social change. We need to see a global partnership pulling together government, civil society, a private sector. And I conclude saying that if we pay attention to the beginning of the story, to the children, to the young children, we can change the whole story. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Belloni, for your words of wisdom. I really appreciate it. Thank you again, both of you. That panel was amazing as all the others. As we move on, we are coming to the penultimate session, call to action, and it is my privilege and honor to request Honorable Claudiana A. Cole, Minister of Basic and Secondary Education from the Gambia. And the Honorable Minister will be discussing a roadmap on right to quality and inclusive education for the African child and the African Union Agenda 2063. Thank you. Over to you now, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. And good evening to everyone. Distinguished personalities, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols respectfully observed. Please allow me to express my delight and appreciation for the privilege and honor accorded me to be part of this very important Zoom conference in observance of the Day of the African Child 2020. This year's theme, Education, Health, and Access to Child-Friendly Justice for African Child, speaks volumes, particularly at this very critical moment of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has affected all aspects of our human endeavor, especially educational service delivery to its core. Nonetheless, we are of the view and strong conviction that education should not wait and cannot wait. Therefore, no opportunity should be lost in making sure that our children continue to receive what is their due in terms of education, which is the key to their future. Cognizant of this fact, numerous initiatives and strategies have been adopted by countries around the world, African countries being no exception, to provide learning opportunities for children in fulfillment of their right to education. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to take you through my presentation as one of the guest speakers of this all-important conference. Education is not a privilege, rather it's a human right. The right to education is a fundamental one, and every individual, irrespective of their race, gender, nationality, etc., is entitled to a free elementary education. This right has been universally recognized since the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, and has since been enshrined in many policies and national constitutions. Article 26 of the Declaration is about the right to education. Everyone has a right to education, and at least an elementary education that shall be compulsory and shall be made available generally. And technical and professional education, as well as higher education, shall be generally accessible to all on the basis of merit. In the Gambia context, The 1997 Constitution of the Gambia upholds fundamental rights and freedoms to education, as is evident in the number of legal instruments and frameworks. The 2016-2030 education policy objectives is premised on the same theme, the United Nations 2020 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and Goal 4 has the following guidelines: non-discriminatory and all-inclusive education, and respect for the rights of all individuals, cultural diversity, indigenous languages, and knowledge. Education allows individuals to exercise all of those rights. There is evidence that educated citizens care more about their environment and are more tolerant. They have the skills and knowledge to do all the following, as can be seen in the bullet point. The right to quality education. Since the globalized framework of JOMTEM and the Dakar Conference and the Millennium Development Goals for achieving universal primary education by 2015, many sub-Saharan African governments have adopted free education and abolished school fees and introduced school grants, though some African countries, including the Gambia, is yet to even enforce the compulsory education, though education is free at all levels in the Gambia. Progress so far. Great progress has been made in terms of access over the years. According to UNESCO, 262 million children and youth aged 6 to 17 were still out of school in 2017. Around the world, 617 million children and youth are still not mastering reading and mathematics, that is literacy and numeracy, after spending many years in school. And the common challenges for countries. These are shortage of qualified teachers, overcrowded classrooms, scarcity of quality teaching materials, teaching in another language other than their mother tongue, which they can understand and will be able to learn in very well, and post-school management are some of the common challenges that African countries are facing towards achieving quality education. The teacher and the teaching methods. These are the most important factor in the quality of education. Some time ago, one of the themes for the Teachers' Day celebration was quality teachers for quality education. There is no way we can achieve quality education if the teachers are not of quality. Their capacity needs to be built, their competency needs to be increased, and we have to look at them in all those areas. Are they trained? Are they using the proper teaching methods? Are the teacher having access to teaching materials that are needed to fulfill the requirements of the curriculum, etc., etc. But we must also remember that the teachers need to be motivated so that they can be dedicated to their work. And here, it's not only about monetary incentives, but opportunities can also be provided for them so that their morale will be increased and uplifted. What are the educational content? The curriculum, the teaching materials, are they relevant? Are literacy and basic skills sufficiently emphasized? Does the curriculum also highlight the basic skills, what we call the life skills, the hygiene, nutrition, gender equality, conflict resolution, and etc.? The learning environment needs to be conducive. Is the learning environment healthy? Is there an inclusive learning environment for minorities of pupils and those with disabilities? Do the pupils learn to respect each other in their surroundings? Do the teachers cooperate to ensure a sound learning environment for all? And parents and the surrounding community, are they included in school management? Funding and community participation. These are also very important. Without the necessary funding and parental participation to community participation, it will be difficult for school to be able to ensure quality education to their pupils. And the national languages, we must not forget that research has proven that when children learn in their mother tongue in the first years of schooling, it enhances their understanding and it gives them a proper grasp of the foreign language or the, how would you call it, the official language that they will be taught in. For instance, in the Gambia, the official language is English and we teach in English. But we have realized and we have introduced the local languages to enable better learning for minority groups and in their mother tongue so that they can understand better. With all those, I thank you for having invited me, and I'm very pleased to have been able to share my thoughts. Thank you. And those are some of my thoughts and recommendations which you'll be able to go through. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. That was such a comprehensive talk with so many points. And, you know, when we share your slides with your permission, as all the other speakers too, this is such a wealth of knowledge, not only for the youth, but for all of us. Thank you, ma'am. And I salute you for all your good work and working. And then definitely it's a human right. You know, my mantra is health is a human right. Education is definitely a human right too. Unfortunately, so many children have to fight for it, especially now. Thank you again. And unfortunately, our next speaker, the Honorable Minister from Nigeria, has had an emergency and cannot be with us, but he does extend his wishes. And now we are moving on to the session 7, that is the vehicle of delivery for education, health, and access to child-friendly justice for the African child. And it's my privilege and honor to call upon His Excellency, Dr. Denise Antoine, former Deputy President of the UN General Assembly, the 69th session, Chair Advisory Board, Center for SDG Global Education USA. And Ambassador Antoine is a tireless champion for education. I have a question for you, Ambassador. Having known you for so many years, you're like the Energizer Bunny. Where do you get your energy? And you're such an inspiration to all of us, young and old alike. And I am personally so delighted, and I speak on behalf of Ada, my partner in crime, that we really are so indebted to you for all the guidance and encouragement you gave us as NGOs during your tenure, your illustrious tenure at the United Nations as the permanent representative of your country, so Grenada. So thank you so much, Ambassador. Now the floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Well, let me thank you, Dr. Padmini and Dr. Ada. I think only you and such an illustrious panel can get me to sit here this long without falling for food. With that said, I want to go quickly into just a few points, because speaking at this point, it gives me an opportunity to agree with all the wonderful ideas that has been shared. I want to begin by making the point that every African is somebody's child, the young and the elderly. The challenges which confront us today in the grip of COVID-19 relates to most of our vulnerable populations. The majority of cases, families, women, children, adolescents. Remember, the family, women, children, adolescents. These are the clusters that have been largely affected. Remember 44 years ago in Soweto, what we were marching and protesting about. Have the subjects changed? 13 years after 1976, the year of the African child, the Day of the African Child was put in place in 1989. Has the subject changed? We're still talking about disparity, inequity, injustice, exactly same subjects. When I heard, I think it was Praise spoke, that young child bore the burden of 44 years ago, and she's still bearing the burden of fighting for justice. We have to remember health needs, vulnerable populations at all stages of life, from pregnancy, birth, childhood, adolescence, through adults, because we're talking about lifelong learning. Therefore, if a child does not have proper nutrition before that child is born, what happens to his ability to be educated? If a mother does not have the proper environment to get the proper food, this issue of food security, we have to remember, it begins with the nurturing of an unborn child. And so we cannot just speak nice stories and give this platitudes. I've heard some very interesting presentations, and maybe I just need to say I agree a lot. I like particularly the I lead issue. We have to begin to instill in our people, in our young individuals like Praise, this choice issue. And so I want to applaud the speakers who went before me. Improvement of education provided to African children. Now remember, compulsory education. Let us not talk about compulsory education. Let us talk about quality education, And let us talk about preparing. Now, we spoke a lot about educating the child in the grip of COVID-19, and we talk about remote learning, but let us remember that there are many children who cannot access that kind of education. Therefore, how do we prepare the physical environment for opening up? How do we support smart opening up to upkeep the sustainable form of education without losing? So the issue of remote, rural, affordable learning, the digital education system, bringing the education to where it is in need. Remember, we cannot leave anyone behind. So my brief presentation today will be about digital distribution. We have to talk about collaboration among educators, and sharing not just for profit, but sharing because of humanity, sharing because of, I believe, because of that inner gesture of being grateful for having the ability to share. So best practices we have to re-engineer our physical environments. Do you remember in 2000, when we spoke about connectivity? Connectivity has not reached so many of our communities that we still are talking about connectivity. So if we are to do justice to children, we have to bring the education to them. They must be able to be educated where they are without leaving the communities, because digital office, digital teaching, digital education program requires also retraining and retooling of adults who teach, because they have to learn how to utilize this new technology to teach children. So we have a lot of reimagining the education process. And so I'm very pleased today to be a part of this dialogue, to listen, and I have learned a lot. And we need to also talk about teachers as learners. So the new model that we must embrace is available, rural, accessible digital education, the classrooms, the chalkboard, the global teachers network that we have to create. Therefore, we need collaboratives and we need partnerships. I would end here and thank you, Ada and Dr. Padmani, for including me in this discussion. I learned a lot, and I hope to make sure that I incorporate it in my sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Antoine. And with your kind permission, sir, I would like to use one adjective to describe your presentation: amazing. It goes along with affordable, available, accessible, acceptable. So that was also amazing. Thank you so much for being such a stalwart in education and diplomacy. I think you've straddled both the worlds so well. And those of us who have worked with you and know you are really fortunate. And thank you, sir, for continuing to lead all of us around. And now we go to our last speaker for the day is Her Excellency, Dr. Teresa Martins, Chair to the Board Center for SDG Global Education, USA. Dr. Martins, the floor is yours.
Thank you so very much. To all panelists, I want to tell you thank you for your contribution. I'm not going to take too much more of your time for today, the Day of African Child and COVID-19 after lockdown preparedness. Our organization is gladdened to admonish that our Education Solutions Classroom Academy, also known as ESCA series, has taken the vehicle of its action delivery to create content for community education, reduce emerging self-stigma, negative emotional health, and to build healthy confidence in the midst of people while strengthening the education, economic, and healthy well-being. So I want individuals to know that this is something that we're continuing to build upon, because we wouldn't want the parents constantly dealing with what's going on, especially with COVID-19, being out in the public because they're back and forth to the school facilities, handing in paperwork for their children. So our aim is to enact action plan and to set the sense for community growth and sustainable during this time. So education across all communities. We have truly come this far by providing insight to significant need on education with respect to what's happening with COVID-19. This pandemic is necessary, it's a necessary action resource that's needed to sustain education across communities. And to further this vehicle of delivery, the Center for SDG Global Education, USA, with Barjuni and Irene Menakaya Foundation International, considered education in rural community and have taken to launch the initiative on implementing rural, remote, affordable learning, titled Rural Plus. It's a remote learning education program for developmental countries. The Rural Plus will work to integrate experts in education, global network of educators, actualizing the mission of the Model United Nations and exchange education through being digital, and commit to deliverable of the Sustainable Development of Goal 4 and targets for all levels of education. Through Rural Plus, we will enact action for stronger partnerships with educational agencies and technological companies as we begin the implementation discussion with global stakeholders from July during the UN session of the High-Level Political Forum, which we're hoping, if it does take place, we hope that we're going to be able to hold this on August 22nd, 2020. All of our valuable speakers that's been a part of this conference, we're asking you to join us for that forum to enable us to continue the discussion that we've been having. The major objective is to get back education at all levels back on track for global to local communities in developing countries. So be mindful to please join us for the program, which we're going to entitle Time is Now. So the Rural Plus SDG, I'm sorry, I heard a question. Okay, I think I heard something with time. So we're looking for it to take place August 22nd, I'll just repeat that, 2020, which you would be hearing about at a much later date. We'll definitely reach out to everyone. We have your contact information regarding this. So once again, I want to thank you all for your contribution and input to the theme of this conference on the Day of the African Child. So just again, our organization wants to admonish and most passionately want to thank the Honorable Commissioner of Social Affairs, African Union Commission, Her Excellency Amara El Fidel, the Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Claudina Cole, the Gambia Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Nigeria, Dr. Onu, and the words of His Excellency Ambassador Dennis Antwine to launch this initiative. Your contributions and everyone else has effectively ignited this theme, which is the time is now, and have set for us to operate the Rural Plus initiative as a remote learning education for developing countries. So the SGD, Global Education USA, with Barjuni and Irene Menakaya Foundation, and this have made the clarion call for this to take place. So please be mindful to join us at that time. Thank you for all of your contributions. I turn it back into your hands.
Thank you so much, Dr. Martin. That was very nice, and really appreciate your commitment and your work and enthusiasm. And now we have a brief musical interlude, which will be followed by appreciation, vote of thanks, and closing remarks. Thank you.
$1 a day, and there is no answer to the hunger. And the poverty never seems to go away. They are asking how much longer.
Let the children go to school, let there be no reason. They can get an education. I see the beautiful minds coming from miles and miles like butterflies. Let's feed the thirst in their eyes. Time is ticking, it's ticking away. Hear the call for a true war. Yes, saluta continua, there's no time to delay. The Africa we dream of, only it goes away. Africa, Africa, oh. Africa,
If we teach a girl to read, a future generation rejoices. And put a microphone in the hands of our sisters, hear their voices, know their choices.
We have the power at this very hour to decide we're losing no child on the fight. That will grow and live to see their 80s and live to see their babies. Time is ticking, it's ticking away. Hear the call for a true war. Yes, I know time continue, there's no time to delay. The
stomach. His other hand is on the heart card in his pocket. The doctor knows she will make it. As for the baby that both parents created, sitting at the gateway, they're the new parents to be. It's a good day.
We've made such major steps in the right direction. We took the road less traveled by. We put hard on the reins of major sickness. No, we won't bear the burden of the sadness. Time is ticking, it's ticking away. In the call for and through call. Yes, I lose, I continue, but there's no time to delay. Big Africa, we dream of only echoes away.
Smoke from factories, killing rivers and trees. Water's not drinkable, situations unthinkable. We must have somewhere to go when we need to go. Overcrowded spaces like a maximum sentence.
What we need is opportunity, a world in unity, a level playing field. See where we went wrong, take a look at the replay. It's time for fair play. Time is ticking, it's ticking away. Get a call for a through call. Yes, I lose, I continue, there's no time to delay. The Africa we dream of only echoes away.
Africa, 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 Africa,
Before I say my thank yous and express my appreciation, I just would like to give a special shout out to Praise and Ellie and also Fawad, because as young people, you're really such role models and inspiration. And it's really nice that you're carrying the baton and not walking with it like we did, but running with it. So I think it's really amazing what you're doing. And I think I heard somebody say something. Okay, so I would just like to say that we would like to thank especially our dear friend Ada Okika for her tireless energy. Ambassador Antoine, we could not have done it without your support, sir, and your advice. We constantly rely on you. And African Women Working Group at the United Nations, Center for the SDG Global Education USA, the CICA International University and Seminary, New York and Canada, Tony Hill PC, that's Tony, our tech person, Mekbah Arts, African Cultural Promotions Incorporated, Sub-Saharan Open University, Uganda, Miss CARICOM Foundation International, Tomorrow's Women for Development Organizations, Bar Juni and Irene Menkaya Foundation International, based out of New York and in Nigeria. Last but not least, the honorable guests, excellencies, distinguished panelists, we could not have done it without you. Thank you so much for your time, effort, your passion, and all the work you do. And there was a great suggestion by one of our panelists here that we need to start a working group. I think that's a great idea, because something needs to come out of this, like brainstorming. And Ambassador, that was Antoine, the rural is so important. From Mukundan Parwastu to you, Ambassador, to say that, you know, this rural is so important. Be safe, and together we will go forward. And please watch your space for further announcements. And Dr. Martins, you talked about our upcoming conference in August, so hopefully we can have it. And thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Much
Thank
appreciated.
you.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you.